All right, here we go. What's up, Playmates? You are watching the very first of many podcasts to come. This is going to be called Psychonauts podcast. And my very first guest is one of my longest friends and best friends and greatest psychics. And we just have these deep conversations in this area all the time. So I thought she'd be the perfect guest. And she's done so much to help my career and help me get this going that she's just the perfect person to be the first person that we talk about. I don't want to insult her by calling her a person because I know it's probably pretty insulting because we all know that none of us are people. But we're going to have a great conversation anyway. And it's going to be very existential and it's going to be very mind blowing. And I cannot wait for you to hear her whole story. So. Joan, thanks for coming on, being my guinea pig, my first guest on this podcast here. And so, just I know your story. So just you tell me a little bit about yourself and like how long you've been doing this and what was your awakening? Let's start there. Was there one epiphany or was there like?
Well, so funny you should ask that question. Okay. So I've been wondering the answer to that. And I had a chat with a dear friend of mine about 3 weeks ago. And I said, I just didn't have one wake up. Like everyone's talking about their spiritual awakening moment. And I can't think of just one. Like I had so many that I'm a little confused. And the subject got to whether or not I was a walk in. And I said, well, I think I'm a walk in because who I am now is not at all like that weird girl, depressed and chubby and really I don't think I could have ever imagined what I'm doing now. And she was sickly and yeah. So I know I'm a walk in of some kind. And we had to figure it out. And this is what happened. This is what she told me. She explained to me that as a young child, I was very, very fragmented. And I was. Okay, I had a very weird upbringing. And my parents tied my hands together and my feet together when I was very young, 6 months old. And I must have leapt out of my body big
Oh
time.
my God!
Okay,
Wow.
who would want to stay in that body? And it explains why I'm an interdimensional person now.
Yeah. Wow.
So, so what I found out was that, yeah, I had jumped out big time, and I can actually remember other moments when I jumped out. And shamanically, what has to happen is you have to call back pieces of your soul. So there, I have called back 31 pieces of myself, apparently, and the 32nd is coming in 3 months, and the 33rd in 6 months. And I will fully have recovered all of my angelic memories as a it took 33 events. This is how powerful I am. I had to have 33 energetic upgrades and activations for my complete memory.
So wow. So do you think that it seems to be that a lot of people have these trauma-based moments that fragment them, right? And it's almost like as if the trauma that you experienced, would you say that it's like your personality fragmented into 31 different personalities? Almost as if there are 30 different archetypes of the different versions of you, the different parts of yourself, I guess, that you had to somehow assimilate again and find a way to weave back together again.
Well, that's so interesting because you have to be aware. I wasn't aware of this perspective until my birthday a few weeks ago. But But it's true because I am aware that I have had different periods of my life where I'm calling back pieces of my soul. And I'm aware of when I have gotten very specific energetic upgrades, like huge. Like there was a time I was talking to the sky and to the galactic creator of the universe, and I said, activate me, and I sat down, and then a bird cawed 10 feet away, and a bolt of electricity went through my arm this way, and sparks came out.
Wow.
And that was an energetic upgrade that called back pieces of my soul. So yes, so I could tell you that who I am is been interesting. So on the planet here, I am a chiropractor who is an intuitive coach, consultant. I'm an oracle from ancient times. I help people really remember their big picture, like why they're here, why they've been called, and to help align their skills to get, remember the skills and then tune them up. I've been telling everyone that we all came down here for a mission, and we have a clipboard. You have a big clipboard, Ford, but we all have a clipboard that has your mission on it. It's like your assignment, what you chose to do here, and then we all have skills to go along with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I couldn't do you that well, you know, get all those awards and be that musician. I don't know. You could probably do Joan of Angels, though. Just spread those wings.
And I couldn't paint like you, so we all have
So,
our own, and we not only we have our own talents, we all have our own perspective of this very strange phenomena that's happening,
and we
and
have our own role.
and our own role too. Yeah, it's really something. That's really, really, really something. So, what happened recently with your birthday that was this sudden epiphany for you recently? That
Well, birthdays,
yeah,
time of reevaluation, new energies. Listen, there's new energies on the planet. Okay. I
yeah,
am Joan of Angels, however you want to
yes,
write it, Angels. I'm Joan of Angels, and I was given that name and stepping into this role for a huge purpose, not just
yeah,
to have the fun of going around and going, well, look at me, I've got a crown, I'm Joan of Angels.
yeah.
And so the seriousness of that
You
actually,
literally have a tiara on. I'm just saying, but go ahead.
I literally have what?
Tiara on. Little
I
crown on.
do. Oh, you're right. It is a tear. It is a tear. I'm glad that you can see that. I'm just so glad you can see that. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just teasing. Go ahead.
No, it is a tear. It is a tear. But it comes with a here's what really came to me. I was talking to my dear friend, and we were just talking about why some Jimmy Church should have me on his show. Okay, he's a big radio producer. Show his show is like 13th or something in shows in the country, and I was meditating on it, and I was meditating on it, and then I had my epiphany.
Mm,
And I think this was calling back a piece of my soul, and I'm kind of scared. So the epiphany was that I wasn't given the name Joan of Angels for an accident. That's who I am, and that's who I am really. And I've been getting that epiphany a lot. And I've been channeling Joan of Archangels. And I realized, Joan of Arc has been my childhood everything. She's the
yeah.
only biography I cared about. She was like the only person of importance. Her and Annie Oakley. Annie, get your gun. I had
These
two heroines.
tough role models that took on the whole state and everything. And yeah, I totally get
Yes.
it. Yes,
So
yes.
everything was Joan of Arc.
Wow.
And so I guess I've always imagined what would I do? What would I do if I was ever called in that position? I've thought about that in terms of the Holocaust too. What would I do if I had been born Jewish in that time and there was the Nazis coming? Would I have gone underground? Would I have been a heroine? Would I have just laid down, take me today, so I don't have to suffer for the next 2 years worrying? Seriously, I would ponder that.
Yeah, it's
How would I
deep.
be? And so now I'm 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 sitting there thinking, okay, how am I going to quote pitch being on this show? And suddenly I had another aha moment, and it was huge, and it was almost like thunder God here, because I am that I am, and the fact is that aspects of me are Joan of Arc. She runs through me, through my energy, and so I was forced to go, oh my God, because she wants to come through and lead the planet to freedom, because
Yeah,
that's what she did.
yeah,
That's what she went right up to the king, and she convinced her whole village, her priests, that her 14-year-old uneducated self knew enough to go and talk to the king, and she got an audience with the king.
amazing.
So That was amazing. Yes.
And Meek, great with a sword, right? She wanted to talk first, but don't let her unsheathe that sword because some heads were going to come off if they did, you know, right?
Right. And so I'm
That
not
sword
that
in her.
person. Okay. So I'm not that person.
I'm a
So you
talker.
know, I'm very meek. And so I had this epiphany. It was just last night. Okay. It was just yesterday that I had this real epiphany, and I've been having it since 2020. But this was huge. This is like, okay, we're all called to do something during the next few years, or we wouldn't really be here. And we each of us has a mission. And my mission just seemed like, oh my God, I get in trouble for this one. How does one come out in the world and say, okay, we're leading us to freedom. We're leading us to driving out the dark forces, taking back planet Earth.
Yeah,
Okay. Calling
yeah,
the Angel Brigade. So what I got was that I'm to take my work to the next level. And I have this little pit in my stomach that's a little go, oh, well, huh. I've asked for this. I know this. I asked for what am I supposed to do in times of trouble. And now it's staring me in the face.
yeah. You're like, why now? Like, why not when I was 22?
But we were born for this. This is
Yeah,
all of that. You asked about trauma.
yeah,
All the trauma that you might have had, I had, our listeners have had, was designed to bring us to this moment of stepping into your greatest gifts now. Because I
absolutely.
truly believe that what's happening now and it's going to unfold over the next few years is going to be of a very different caliber. And that who you grew into, you're growing into who you are.
I totally feel the same that you're feeling, and I find it interesting that you chose the name Joan of Angels, right? So, because and you spoke earlier about archangels, and you know, and then earlier when I was typing in the streamer thing, I misspelled it because I had my glasses on, so it wrote Joan of Angles, right? Which is fascinating to me because to me, angel really means angle, and I know that you know this, but right, it's the 90-degree turn of who you are to see it from a different perspective. Really, that's what the angel is. It's the when you have that ability to turn just a little bit or take a step back, right? Then you are the angel, right? And the
Right.
archangels are these archetypes. They're these archetypes that we all these different versions of angels are the ability to step into who we can be or what we're able to be, you know. But I resonate with you so much because I feel like the majority of my life I've had dreams and I was chasing dreams, right? And then when I learned how to look to the right, take that angle to the right, suddenly I'm standing in a space where it's not really about dreams so much anymore, but the dreams have become more of a mission to to change the world in some kind of way. It's not really about me. It's about
Mhm.
what I can do to give back, sort of. And I know that's how you feel. I just from our many conversations, you're like your whole mission is let's get this world awake. Let's
You
get them
know,
going.
I will have to tell you that I do believe that many of us have been here for billions of years and came down here with a mission to help wake people up and help them remember. And Earth is really in trouble. So these are the times for which we're all called.
Yeah,
Even those who are sleeping, who listen to this, really, it's going to resonate with you. It's like, yeah, things are different now. I'm shifting and I'm becoming a little bit different than I was a few years ago. And what's important to me is now new. And so, my work is about helping people adapt to the new and understand exactly how to use your best gifts and resources because this is the time. It's not
yeah.
going to be 5 years from now. It's really today when we're listening in
In a
this
way,
moment.
we have to go through a human culture trauma in order to change. There
Right.
has to be the shock to the system that we fragment and go, oh, wait a minute. How do we get to look at this a different way? Yeah, I think the imperativeness of it is that we've been through tyranny many, many, many times in this world, but with AI literally on the verge of being born, you can almost argue it's already here. Um, Tyranny's forever.
Well, once we go there, we'll never be able to go back. But
Hmm.
yes, and what's become increasingly clear to me is that these controllers have every 200 years or 100 years have completely reset the planet. They've taken over at some point, and so we don't. They've even obliterated time, so that we don't even know how many years have passed since X, Y, and Z. And the absurdness that the Sumerian Empire was the first civilization on the planet. I used to sit there in
Yeah.
third grade thinking, really? Like they just appeared from nowhere? Like, do they think that I'll believe this? I remember thinking those things, okay? Thinking, wow, just like magic, a civilization appears. So even as a third grader, but it's about helping us all remember, and I'm going to really focus on remembering, because if they've reset the planet every 100 to 200 years and they've wiped out all the literature as they're doing now, or all the websites and all of the books and all the knowledge, and they do this every few hundred years, humanity does not know its heritage. We do not know who we really are. So therefore much of our DNA is dormant, and our potential is dormant.
Yeah, yeah. They do it through changing the language, and you're right. It's the like David Icke says, the totalitarian tiptoe. And the perfect example of this is the changing of the word meek. When did meek mean weak? It's that's not what meek means. And at the time of Jesus, when he said the meek shall inherit the earth, meek was defined by a benevolent but powerful and dangerous king, right? So a person who was a powerful king who could totally kill you in a New York second, but would rather use wisdom and love to get through the situation. That was what the definition of meek is. And if you have to go back to the Greek language to see that. But now you say meek. Oh, we're supposed to all learn to be meek. We should just be weak little people who obey and listen to everybody, and just be a listener and a follower, and not firm in our sovereignty and divinity, like a king would be or a queen would be in such a case.
They have been very effective
Mm.
in wiping out people's memories.
Yeah.
So if each of us is a sovereign being with full potential to do all these things, to be equal to each other, but we don't have the memory of that, nor do we have the resources, and we're constant. So I understand the mass hypnosis that's happened, that the controllers have done, and they managed to do it through not just the media, but by wiping out our civilizations, covering them with mud, sort of really altering the face of everything we know to be true. So much so that people are questioning: is the earth round? Is it square? Is it flat? Or do you dare? They're questioning: is this a real sun? Is this a real moon? Is this a real sky? It's like, how come the I read this yesterday. It's like, how come the astrology hasn't changed in thousands and thousands of years? Like those those they're in the same they're just in the same constellations. They've never
Yeah.
moved. They just go round and round and round like that merry-go-round. So I'm not saying what I
Meanwhile, we're
believe it
whizzing around the galaxy at millions of miles an hour, and
and right, and the hat you dropped a second ago is like down, a million miles away. Like there's so many inconsistencies.
yeah,
And so in waking up, it's time to wake up to our power, our gifts, our skills, so we know that we're standing on this particular piece of the planet right here. We know that we have our toolkit that says, look forward, look, Joan, you've come here to wake people up. You've come here to tune their vibration, whatever that purpose is. Some people are here to heal. Some people are here to comfort. Some people are here to feed people,
yeah,
you know, but every person has something you are here to do. And when we're all doing that, it's like a giant orchestra, all in harmony.
it
And
is.
that is when the planet will sing and ascend, and we will ascend and shift those timelines.
So what do you think your main role is besides of all the individual help you do? And let me, before you answer that, I have to just say that I met Joan, what was it, about a decade ago, and probably or longer. We were doing that
2008, I think.
2008. Okay, we were going to do a TED talk, and this is what was crazy is that this is actually national news at the time. TED, there was no such thing as TEDx at the time. Remember this, right? It was a
Oh my
TED talk,
God! Right, right,
right?
right. Okay, yeah.
And somebody else was, and this one was going to be a little bit fringe, and we were going to talk about some things that were really out there. And we all had our own concepts. We're going to kind of have it more of an existential conversation. And I don't remember who was speaking. I think it was Graham Hancock, but whoever was speaking, the TED people were like, "Oh no, this is way too fringe for us to be associated with," and that was the birth of TEDx, right?
Well,
Something like that, I think,
okay. So your memory's a
or
little skewed.
excommunicated from TEDx or something
It
like
was
that.
ex-TED. Okay.
Ex-TED.
So the TED Talks are their big, big, big talks, and then people can petition and set up their own TEDx, like Hollywood TEDx, Beverly Hills TEDx, Hollywood, Florida TEDx, whatever. You can have, so those are TEDx groups. But she was kicked out of TEDx because Graham Hancock was talking about things like ayahuasca and consciousness and interdimensional travel and shifting your reality, and they didn't, and civilizations that began past before the Sumerian civilization that suddenly popped up. So Graham had discovered a civilization from 10,000 years ago under the water, and he also was able to prove the existence of different dimensions that the indigenous tribes access in plant medicine, and was able to show that throughout the world, the indigenous tribes have around the world, without ever talking to each other, were all accessing the same place while using these sacred ceremonial plant medicines, and that it was actual real place, this fifth dimension, which is pretty astounding. So they banned him. Well, his YouTube channels went sky high, but Suzanne decided to change it. She changed it to XTEDx. So we did
Ex-TEDx.
an XTEDx, but we were gonna bring you in to do the music. But we had met before when you had written your first book. We
Oh,
still have
right.
not
Yeah.
met in person.
Right. We only know through this way, that through talking and stuff. But anyway, you've been, I was never into psychics. I'm a very linear thinker. And when I first wrote Becoming God, I was set out to disprove God. Like that's where I was coming from, this very atheist perspective. And I've since, totally flipped the page again on that one, God's little joke on me. But someone said I should talk to you, and I had just gone through this divorce, and it was awful. And I was like, all right, let's just see what Joan has to say. She's always very wise, and let's just see what happens. And the stuff you were telling me was so spot on to exactly the things I was dealing with. Like you were calling out people and describing them, and of course I didn't listen to you. And everything you said that was going to happen happened. And I'm like,
Well,
oh wow, okay, I have to start listening to Joan. When I talk to her, actually, I have to listen and be like, all right, what should I do here? So that was like years ago, and ever since then, you've just been spot on every single time, every time. So now, I listen.
good.
Brilliant.
I want everyone else to listen too. Um,
Well, you
yeah.
tell the truth, and it's hard. People don't want to hear the truth sometimes. The truth hurts.
Can you
And
imagine like being John the Baptist, right? People did,
yeah, right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. There's a very I can't remember off the top of my head who the scientist is, but gosh, and I love his work so much, but he was talking about his version of John the Baptist is, uh, it's not about being dropped into water with a little bit like you do with a baby. It was John the Baptist was holding people under the water until they literally drowned, and they're like, "Okay, now do you see God? You see what's going on? Okay, let me get you back up here and revive you a little bit."
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, no, Rupert Sheldrake. So he's a brilliant, 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 brilliant scientist who writes about existential stuff, and he's been basically excommunicated from the scientific community because of his discussions. But man, if you want a really good he has some great lectures that are just mind blowing. But I thought it was like, yeah, that kind of makes a little bit more sense than the way we think
Wow.
about baptism.
I often wondered about that. Supposing they really didn't want to see you being resurrected, or
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right. So
yeah.
that's a little dangerous
And
undertaking.
life was so like it wasn't as, I don't know, it wasn't worth as much back then. Life and death is a very different thing back then than it is today. You want to see God? There's no laws that be like, oh, if I accidentally killed somebody, they come get me. I don't know. It was a fascinating talk though, but anyway, I digress. So Joan is a wonderful psychic. And my confidant and advisor. So anyway, that's what we were talking about. So your mission is to help people by
Okay, so I help people by teaching or by coaching, by what I call soul awakening sessions. So I do one-on-one, I do groups. I want to do more groups actually. And I have my YouTube channel. And when I can, I do live events. But yeah, I help people through my unique brand of understanding and seeing your big picture and what you're here to do. I'm able to help you see how to clear what's keeping you stuck and how to let go of that, and then to continue on your journey, but always to continue in a way that is raising your vibration and helping allow you to unfold what you really came here to do. And it's a process. It doesn't happen instantly.
yeah.
It and it is a process of you awakening, you know, not necessarily me. It's really claiming that. So so what I do is I just ask for that guidance, and we get it. And that which is for your highest good unfolds. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Do you think it comes to you more like in visions? Like, because I know you paint, or is it more like a voice in your head, or are you just getting just a gist of an idea when it comes to you?
Great question. Okay, so you would think I saw it in visions, that I would be clairvoyant, because that's what clairvoyant is. You could
Okay.
see it in visions. But I do get visions, but I don't get visions like that. So I'm clairaudient mostly.
Hmm.
I'm clairaudient. I hear things right here. It could be very loud and clear, or it could be a prompting, or
And it's from the
what they.
outside? It
Yeah,
feels
yeah.
okay.
So it's
Wow.
right here. It's right here, and that's when it's clairaudient, or it's clairsentient, where I'll feel it. I'll just know something is true, and you know, and it'll resonate through my whole body. I just know it to be this way. And normally it's usually counter to whatever mainstream is saying. Not
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But but I'm I'm very
Imagine that.
intuitive. I'm very intuitive about reading between the lines. Or okay, my guide's just saying you don't read between the lines, Joan. You hear between the lines.
Are we allowed to say mainstream anymore on YouTube? I'm not sure if that's a legal word anymore. We may not be able to say mainstream.
Oh, well
I'm
then
just
just
joking.
delete it all. So I'm a magical person in a muggle world. And so the muggles, we're allowed to say the word muggles. The muggles read their muggle news, their muggle paper, have their muggle coffee, and they're fed muggle everything. I don't think that's the people who are going to listen to your Psychonauts show.
No, 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 no. I feel like the vast majority of the planet is never going to get what we're talking about. But that's not what this channel's for. This channel is for that 3% who are already asking these very deep questions and they think they're crazy.
Right.
And right, and I wanna be that channel that goes, "No, you're not crazy. In fact, look how freaking cool this is. This is awesome. My life is a joke. It's a playground," right? I wake up at 11 o'clock in the morning, and I play with my dog, and I make music, and then I go to bed and start all over again. That's what life is. That's what life is when you're awake. It doesn't mean that it's not stressful, and you go through tests and dramas, and that happens. But the difference between the unawakened life and the awakened life is you can snap out of your little sulk in a second, right? You get into that little sulk and you're going, oh, wait a minute. The whole thing's a dream. This is just a big joke. Blah. Next day, you're fine. Yeah.
Yeah, or I've done this before. It's
Yeah. Oh,
about
yeah.
recognizing it.
A little louder this time. The message, the lesson's coming through just a little bit louder this time, it seems like.
Yeah. Well, I teach this intuition class because you've been asking, what do I do?
Yeah.
And I have it coming up in mid-April. And the intuition class is all about recognizing the messages from your gut.
Mm.
The clues that you're getting. Like the hardest thing I think is when your gut tells you to do something. Like I tell the story of my taxes. I heard this message loud and clear, 2014, okay, April, picked up the tax returns for my 2 kids and myself. Thank God I watched him transmit them to the IRS while I was in his office. But I'm carrying the copies and I go to my trunk and it was, I open the trunk and I hear this voice that says, don't put them in the trunk. They're going to fly out. And I thought that was crazy. Like, crazy. Like, what are the odds? It's like, well, this has never happened to me before. My stuff, the trunk, fly open. And so I didn't listen. So I'm driving, and it's a rental car. I'm driving, and I stopped sharply at a light, and it's busy LA traffic. My trunk flies open, and by the time I'm able to pull over, all 3 of the tax returns disappeared. Never
Oh
was able
my
to find them again.
God.
And 3 days later, some guy from the LA Public Works Department calls me and told me that, he had my daughter Alana's tax returns. So therefore, I realized that there's a difference. So I teach in this class how to pay attention to the messages that you're getting and learn how to trust them. That's an art form because for many reasons people don't listen. It's annoying. It's too much. Why should I go out at 2 hours out of my way just because I hear a voice that says, don't go?
Yeah.
Right? How do you know when to listen? So I teach this class about that so you could avoid having a stranger read your social security number back to you.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Things like that.
That's awesome. I think that's important. That we're kind of stuck in this place of we're trying to appease 2 masters. The mind wants one thing and the body wants another thing. And then if we're in our lucky enough to be in our heart, it's an impossible task to make either side happy. One has to give, right, for the other one. And then so I think because of that, so many times we shift that energy down into our root chakra, our sacral, right, our gut, like you're talking about, because we're thinking and we're always thinking about the worst case scenario. We just naturally do that because that's that reptilian mind center in us. So instantly, that's where we're going to feel that feeling of, is this the right or the wrong thing to do? But always the logical mind will try to override that and be, oh, it's crazy talk. That's
Right. And
that's
then
crazy
comes up
talk
with all the reasons you can't
of
do
why
it.
you're being crazy. Yeah. So it's funny because they'll all lie to you to a degree. You have to find a way to make it balanced and right, and just find the one that it is. So I think what you're teaching is so powerful. If we all just learn to come from there,
Right.
one of the wisest things I ever heard anybody say. It was I love things that are succinct. They're very, very, very simple. And I'm not, a gigantic fan of Sadhguru, but I did go to see him speak at his retreat. And he said, really, enlightenment can be broken down to this. It's the ability to respond. And which is so deep. We can react or we can respond. And those are 2 totally different ways of approaching any situation.
Wow. That's very empowering.
Very, right? I was just like, okay, that was worth the 10-day retreat right there. That right there was totally worth it.
Right, because it
Yeah.
seems so simple, but it's really not. Yes, and it's so different. And so all of these steps are really about how we can really be more effective now with our time, how we can maneuver for the next 10-year cycle that's going to take us all by surprise, but it's going to call for us to be our best self ever to get through this. And it's, if you think of it as a grand initiation, which I kind of think is cool, like many of us are grand initiating together, which like a global grand initiation. I don't know if that's ever happened before, but I think that's why we're going to be effective in throwing off the dark controllers.
Yeah, it's really black magic versus the white magic, isn't it? You know, people all think, oh, don't mess with magic, it's all evil. That's, well, if you're on the bad side, that's what you want the good side to think. It's all evil, don't touch it. Because they want the tools for themselves, right? And it sounds like insanity to say there's black magic and white magic, but the word we use in the world is, we call it propaganda, right? But propaganda is just a fancy word of black magic, is what it is, right?
Right. Well, that gets down
Planting
to
those
the, yeah,
seeds. Yeah, yeah.
it's like spells. We're using words to cast spells.
Spells,
So
yes.
spellcast. So I was thinking where you were going with that because I don't use the word magic,
Mm.
but spell casting is using words to create power, that create power. So affirmations are also spell casting.
Uh,
Or the I am light. We are also using words to cast, that positive effect out into the universe. So everything we're doing has that ability of spell casting
yeah,
when you
totally.
think about it.
And it's very useful, and there's nothing wrong with this stuff. It's a tool. There's not like, it's like a gun is innocent. A gun never killed anybody. A person might use a gun to kill somebody, but a gun isn't inherently bad. Drugs may kill people, but it's not the drug that's bad. It's the misuse of drugs that's bad, right? It's like all these things, and magic is kind of the same way. And you're right, magic is such a loaded term because when you say magic, people think David Copperfield or but magic has been around, like we were talking about earlier, for thousands of years to brainwash us and make us think things that aren't there, and then propaganda is what is all basically based on black magic. It's the hypnosis aspect of the mind. But we can use the same thing. We can use love. Love is a white magic, right? And awakening and apocalypse and revealing the truth, pointing to the magic. Say, see the strings? There's a string. There's the smoke. There's the mirror. Can you see it now? Can you see the trick now? There's the trick. That's what we're doing. We're kind of pointing it out.
Takes a lot. But yes, you could instill or infuse like your music, my art, everything, our
Yeah,
words with higher frequency energies.
yeah,
And that's, I think, what my work is about, infusing everything we do with higher frequencies
yeah.
so that we can connect with with God.
Picture says 1,000 words, and then words cast 1,000 spells, right? So yeah, your painting can be really, really effective. Um, Metaphor, planting that seed of hope in people's lives just through a picture or painting. It's deep. It's very, very deep. It's deep stuff, and I think it's amazing what you're doing, really. And I think it's amazing that you are able to be so tapped in. It's just I've never met anybody in my life who was just tapped. You're tapped in, girl. You got one foot in and one foot out. You're like there, totally.
Well, wait till the 33rd part of me comes back.
Oh man, we're in trouble.
Just you wait.
Are you gonna grow a third wing at that point? Is it gonna be like 3 wings? Is it?
You'll be, you'll, it'll be, the frequency will be so strong, you'll see them with your naked eye.
Yeah, yeah, and since you're talking about frequencies, this is like my thing and we're kind of doing it the same way. Is that we say everything is frequency, everything is vibes and vibration, and if people who are not metaphysical or at least would ever consider anything outside of the idea of scientism to say that everything is made of frequency just sounds like a bunch of crystal rubbing hogwash to them. It doesn't make any sense to them. But the direct experience of frequency is every person has had that experience where you walk into a room and you're like, "Ooh, something feels off. I don't know what that feeling is, but it just feels off."
Right.
Or
Right.
you meet a person, right? And you're like, I just met this person, but I feel like I've known them my whole life. What is that feeling?" Right?
Right.
And right, those are the vibes, those are the frequencies, and we're bombarded with them everywhere. And what the black magicians are doing, the propagandists in the dream that we call reality, they are inverting our vibrations on purpose. They're doing it with light, they're doing it with sound, and they're doing it with math. And they're literally hypnotizing us by inverting our vibrations. It puts us in a state of constant anxiety, constant fear. And how are you not going to be a complete jerk when you feel like that? You know, that's why
Interesting.
that's how people are. They're all freaked out, you know?
Calling it inverting their vibrations.
Yeah.
Wow. You're very right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is going on and undermining people's confidence in what they see. It's like, if the emperor is standing there naked and you see the emperor naked, but 99% of the people tell you that naked person has clothes on it, and you're not a strong
He's
personality,
not wearing any pants.
he's
Just
naked.
joking.
I know.
I was
We
doing my
can whisper
Biden.
it here.
He's not wearing any pants. Just joking.
Let's go, Brandon. Okay, now that could get you kicked off.
Yeah, no, that's gonna have to be edited out of YouTube. Sorry. We hate Brandon.
We love Brandon. No, we love Brandon.
We love
We don't
Brandon.
love his namesake.
See, now I got to edit out like 8 seconds. So.
Well, the longer the better. It just makes it easier. The bigger, if we do things, as long as you can recognize where it happens. Okay, I just had to say it.
It's okay. You're perfect. It needed to be said. So it's funny. So like because this is the first podcast, not a whole lot of people know that I'm down this rabbit hole of spirituality and awakening as much as I am. A lot of people just go, "Oh, what's this record producer gonna sit here and tell me about how to fix my life?" They just automatically think my life is just so peachy and I get $1 million royalty checks every month and life is just so awesome and I have nothing to say about it. But this awakening changes everything. Even at the height of my career, when I started to awaken, and like you said, it's not an overnight thing. It's a very slow, awakening kind of sneaks up on you. And then one day it taps you on the shoulder and it's too late, you know? But prior to awakening, I was at the height of my musical career and I was a miserable idiot. I mean, I was just as miserable as a person who goes to work and sits in a cubicle all day. I was constantly answering the phone. I was constantly answering to A&R suits that were just annoying and wanted me to change this and change that. And you try to remind yourself, gosh, you're just not being grateful. You're doing music for a living. How grateful is that? But prior to awakening, I would spend 95% of my time on the phone just securing the next business deal to have that 5% of time to do the art that I loved. It was crazy. Post-awakening, the only thing that changed was my mind, and suddenly my life is completely opposite now. Now I just sit around and make music all the time, and everything else just works itself out. It might get stressful for a couple of days, but then you let go and you let God, right? That's the answer.
Uh-huh.
But letting go is so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard, right? It's like, ugh. I love holding on to this pain. Let me hold on to it just a little longer. I don't want to let go. I want to be a victim.
It's easy. It's easy to want to hold on, and change is very rapid. The whole planet is changing. I think what's happening is that we're all going through this change at the same time. It's not just personal change. It's also the world around us is changing as we speak.
Yeah,
So I think this is great to be a guide for people during these times.
for
That's
sure.
the other thing I see that I do is I am a guide for how to stay steady during these times. I have a show every Monday called Miracle Monday. I've done that for like at least 4 years, 5 years, that show. And then I have other shows I pop in and out of with. I interview people, but it's all to guide you on how to stay steady.
Yeah. You know,
Period. So you don't drown.
you blew my mind the other day when you're on Charlie Ward's show. I was like, "What? She's on Charlie Ward's show? What is going what?" Mind blown. She's like, "Yeah, I'm kind of a big shot. I don't have gold records, but yeah, I'm kind of a big shot in my own little field here."
I'm trying to get on what's his name? It'll come back to me. Anyway, that was exciting to be on Charlie's show. He needs a few people to tell him how wonderful I was. I thought being
Oh.
one of Charlie's angels would be great, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I thought you were fantastic on it. It was great. It was
Thank you
great.
very,
It
very
was great.
much.
It was great. And I love the fact that it just popped across my feed. Because it wasn't on your channel. It just popped across my feed and I was just like, "Whoa, wait a minute." You know?
Really?
Yes.
Do you follow
Crazy.
Charlie Ward?
No, but I think the algorithm knows that I follow Charlie Ward, so just anytime he does something, it pops up in my feed. So it's like all of a sudden
And
I'm like,
there was
and then there was
Joan,
Joe, and
right?
I'm like, what the heck is going on here? This is crazy.
I was on Nicholas Benjamin back in September too.
Oh yeah, he's awesome too. Okay, yeah. You know, I have to keep my doom scrolling to a minimum. You know, these days it's like for a while I found myself getting very addicted to wanting to know what was going on. But you know, we live in a we're definitely living in a war of words, so to speak. You know, and it's just too impossible to tell what's real anymore. It's all
Right?
lies.
No, it's
Yeah,
impossible. It totally is. I
yeah,
take a little update in the morning, a little update in the evening, and it's a time waster for me if I go any deeper.
yeah.
But
Same here. Same
I
here.
know what my guides are telling me,
Yeah,
about all aspects of this and enough to know, that I know what my job is.
yeah.
So,
You know, I've wanted to ask you this before, but I have this very weird kind of suspicion or theory or feeling about the non-dual aspect of reality, right? And that is the closer we come to the center, the closer we get back into our egoless center state where there is no being, there's no body. Imagine that it's like a hurricane, right? And you know how a hurricane spins and it has that hole in the center, the eye of the hurricane. Well, the way that a hurricane spins is the golden ratio, and that golden ratio is found in everything. It's found in the galaxies, it's found in the solar system, it's found in fruit, it's on your face, it's in your knuckles. It's God's thumbprint, okay? For lack of a better word, let's call it divine thumbprint. And I know atheists hate that word too. Sorry, I'm doing the best I can. But anyway, so that almost like as if life and one's ability to maintain that awakened state, that just like a hurricane, the closer you come to the eye where it's perfectly still and perfectly calm and perfectly beautiful, just those outer bands are the most violent. That's where it's the worst. That's where it's just doing all of the real destruction. You know, the further bands, the ones way far away from the center of the hurricane, are just a mild storm. It's hardly anything. And that's where most people live. They live in those outer bands, you know. But almost as if the closer we're coming to our center, our Zen center, the world is turning into this violent, crazy thing because it's reflective of our own dissolving of inner boundaries. So as above, so below, right? We're dissolving our inner boundaries. So therefore, the world has to kind of fall apart in some sort of metaphoric way. I don't know. That's my crazy idea, but that's kind of was noticing, and I was just kind of thinking what you thought about that.
well, you're kind of reflecting that it's following our own internal state of falling apart. I kind of see that there's also the worldview of the cycles and the energy cycles and the yuga cycles, of which
Um,
I'm not really privy to, but the planetary cycles
Kal Yuga.
and also the astrological cycles.
Mm,
Okay. And there comes a time in the history of planet Earth where freedom will reign. And these are old prophecies and these are old tales, and that runs through us as a people and as a tribe. And I don't know which cycle you might want to call to it or whatever, but I think that there is a call in people's soul for freedom. We have tried it as a planet other lifetimes and have been completely devastated and learned to be chattels and serfs and servants.
yeah.
But there is a call in humanity now that says, I am awake and I am awakening. I am waking up everyone around me. I will not be silenced. So whatever muzzle has been on humanity is being peeled off. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right about that for sure. It seems to be there's this very narrow window where we're able to speak freely. It's like the internet in the grand scope of time, right? We've got this very, very narrow window where all of a sudden the entire world can communicate freely without any limitation. And now all of a sudden we're already starting to see the degradation of that ability. But it's like in that little window, if we could get enough momentum of people sharing what they think about what's really going on, that was that 100th monkey effect, I guess you could say, that could possibly be the catalyst to a mass global awakening.
And it's music, it's songs that are in people's heads, it's this memory, that's these words that we're speaking that's really designed to go right into people's hearts and memories to align you, to remind you.
Yeah.
When I say I've been called as Joan of Angels, I've really been reminded that she runs through me. She does channel through me, Joan of Archangel, the courage to speak your truth and the courage to stand up for what's right and stand up for freedom on all levels. And I think that's the most primal thing that people are being called to right now, is to be free as a race, as a species, as humanity. Humanity is a God, Hugh is God, so God-like form of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally see that. Yeah.
So, a lot's going on, more than we know.
So many are being called too, and what percentage of those are even going to step up to the plate and do it? You know, it's very easy to get overwhelmed with life and to be a non-believer in this gut that you're talking about that's calling you to action. And we're all being called, but most of us are going to sit on the couch and watch Netflix and hope that someone else does it. And I think what you're doing is awesome because it really gets people motivated to say, "Yeah, I'm not crazy. And look at all these other crazy people and look what they're doing. They're having so much fun and they're doing some great things to change the world." And I don't know, get people really recognizing things about themselves that they've never been able to see before. I think there's a lot to that is so important. World changing, world changing.
It is world changing. It is, because it's waking up to the power inside of you to affect transformation in yourself, and then this 100th monkey effect. You know, honestly, we can raise our vibes from here, from your home, from your place, from your center, to constantly work on being part of that higher vibrational frequency, which can change everyone around us. It's a good thing you're going to have more than one show. You know, life is.
You mean we're not going to cover it all in this show? Come on.
You know, this.
Enlightenment is about responding, not reacting. That's the end of everything. I'll be $5,000, please.
Responding. I'm going to take that with me today, all
It's
day.
beautiful, isn't it?
Responding.
So
Hmm.
there. It's just the depth of it is so incredible. So incredible. And then, there
Absolutely.
I have to say the wisest thing anybody ever told me was my grandfather, that I didn't get it until I was in my late 40s, early 50s. But when I was a little kid, I'd have a bad day. He'd put his hand on my shoulder and he'll say, "You'll eat." That's all he said. You'll eat. And I didn't really get it as a kid, but as I'm older now and as I'm awakening, think of the depth of the philosophy in that, right? It's
Yes.
all that really matters. It's all that we really care about. We just want to live one more day. You'll eat.
You'll eat.
You'll
You'll
eat.
eat. You'll
You'll eat.
live one more day. You'll eat.
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever. There's nothing to worry about. Even after you're dead, you'll eat. You'll eat.
God.
Maybe stardust or something, but you'll eat. Oh, yeah. It's something else. I just love speaking with you. It's such great energy and such amazingness. And I can't thank you enough for how much you've done to help me kind of get out there and encourage me to do this. Um, I was crying about my career, crying about being a transgender and all victimness. And I called Joan. She's like, you just got to get out there and tell your story. You just need to get out there and do what you're called to do and just do it. And within a couple of years, I had 80,000 subscribers and it was making tons of money and it was turning into this giant thing. And then I got hacked. Why? Because I was stupid enough to trust the wrong people. After she told me, don't trust the people that you're trusting, I didn't listen and I got hacked. And now I'm starting over. But you know what? Hey, built that giant thing in 3 years. Guess what I'll do in the next 3 years? It's going to be crazy. But that's you. That's you. I wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't for you. I'd still be making these other stupid records, you know?
I just want to tell you, I want to remind you of one particular time, it was about 3 years ago, that you had this new album about to come out, which you were very excited about, but you had very low expectations. And you were very depressed. You were like going like, I don't even know why am I going to do this? Because yeah, you were putting out like no one's going to be watching it. And it's just like all the others. And that's the one that must have gone viral because last time I looked, you had millions of views on that one. So I and you had millions of views like within a day or two or something. So
Yeah, a few months and went to I had like over almost like four, like 3 or 4 million views just in the first few months. It was crazy. Yeah, crazy.
so look what would have and had you been putting out positive vibes like, all right, this is going to be my number one top hit, gone viral. I don't know, you might have like 25 million views on it by now.
Yeah, yeah, no, totally, totally. I should have been doing it myself the whole time.
No, no, there's no should haves. There's no should
There's
haves.
no. You're right. There's no
There's
should
no
have.
should haves.
There's no
It's
should
all
have.
about timing because that particular, you're timely for today's time. So you're going to be viral no matter what. You're, you're going to be viral no matter what.
My dog's barking. Hope I don't hear that here. But I know it's going to be viral. It's such a beautiful concept and it's such a great thing. And I've always believed in the idea. But for so long, I was just stuck in that 30-year career, music industry. This is the way you do things. And everybody in the music industry just thought I was insane. They were like, that is the dumbest idea we've ever heard. You want to make positive music? Why? Why we want to retune the music? Why? It's just dumb. Who's going to care about that? And at the time, I'm in the Bible Belt. There was no yoga centers. There was nothing. There was no crystal shops. There was none of that stuff here, right? That was 10 years ago. And then now, 10 years later, there's a yoga center in every stupid shopping center. There's a crystal place in every freaking shopping center. It's like,
Wow.
right?
And it's still the Bible Belt?
Well, I mean, whatever you want to call the South.
Ah,
The South is always the Bible Belt. I live in Atlanta, so it's kind of like the big city, so it doesn't really count,
oh,
Atlanta and
interesting.
LA are very similar in a way.
Oh, I think
But
Atlanta's got more charm. LA has no charm.
yeah, not
However,
anymore.
we're the city of angels. Angles.
Angles.
Angles and angels.
Yeah. So what else you got cooking? Tell me else what you got going on. You had me on the portal to ascension
Oh, yeah.
last
Okay.
week, which was awesome. And I gave the most amazing presentation, except for the fact that my screen didn't work and I couldn't share any of the stuff I was talking about. It was highly embarrassing, but
All right.
I'm
I'm
glad.
going to see if next time there's an opening, I'm going to try to slip you in. Okay.
Ooh, Sounds like a
Got to be
deal.
nice to the producer here. Producer now. So the Angel Brigade, we're gathering. So what else am I up to? So I'm helping produce some events. So that's a 3-day online conference. I'm going to do one of my presentations will be about the art and using the art as an awakening process. And the other is about consciousness, opening up your consciousness, raising your vibe, reaching for the sky, something inspirational on that level. But then on Monday, on the 18th, I do my intuition class, which is really going to be good. I want a lot of people in there. It's really about developing your ninja skills. And it's just a step one of just being able to respond instantly, not having to go
Awesome.
back and getting everyone in the world, oh, should I do it? Should I not? Yes, no. And then you're confused. We have to become crystal clear right now. We need to be able to make snap decisions. Can we trust what we're hearing? Can we trust each other? What's my next step? You got to get that answer faster than you used to.
Yeah.
So those are things that I'm doing. In May, I'm co-producing a Kundalini conference.
Nice.
Oh yeah, and then the thing I've just worked on this morning all day was I'm going to be doing a 6-week group. I haven't done a group for quite a long time. I'm good at groups. I have an actual master's in counseling, pretty good at groups. But this one's on finding your soul purpose. So it'll be hands-on
Wow.
group, finding your soul purpose. For it, I think you could lead it probably. You don't need to take it.
Not only if you want them messed up for life, then I'll lead it. But if
Don't you dare say things like that.
I'm teasing, I'm teasing.
Is that why you're calling this a psychonaut?
I think that I have the most fascinating conversations with my friends who call ourselves psychonauts.
Got
And
it.
most of us are psychedelic freakazoids. But there are a few of us in this group who don't really care about psychedelics, but can hang with the conversation. So I say, yeah, you're a psychonaut. Anybody who dives in like an astronaut into their mind and wants to explore the depths of that existential philosophy is that's totally my kind of people. I love those conversations. That's my cup of tea, as I like to say. Definitely.
I love that. That's a good intro to your show or an outro. But
Thank
but
you.
when we started, I was actually going to ask you what a psychonaut was. I was like, oh, I've joined the psychonauts. What
You're
does
one
that
of the
mean?
you're one of the psychonaut. Oh yeah, you may want to use that. Psychonaut typically is associated with psychedelic use, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. But when that was my introduction to this. I never heard of Buddhism. I never knew anything about the Bhagavad Gita or any of that stuff. And then that I was clueless to that. Again, I grew up in the Bible Belt, right? That was about as foreign could be. But I was having psychedelic experiences that first it was a party drug, and then all of a sudden I was having, as an atheist, what felt like to me some sort of a spiritual connection, and that was just like, ooh, wait a minute, everybody needs to get out of my house and the party has to stop and I need to just focus on what this is. And that was the beginning of me becoming a psychonaut. um, I That was how I learned about, before tripping. The yin yang, to me, I thought it was a surfing logo. I thought it was the logo for OP. I didn't know it had any other deeper meaning than that. Isn't that crazy? So, and now I wear it around my neck. It's like it's my life. The yin yang is everything about my life, and the depth of Taoism. And I've gone into the depths of Buddhism, and I've gone into the depths of Hinduism and the electromagnetic universe. And now I'm just like a total nerd with this stuff. I'm obsessed with it. But and I meditate and I practice non-duality and Zen and blah, 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 Reiki, the whole thing.
And
I
you're
took it.
happy.
And I've never been happier in my whole life. Never been happy. I laugh. I laugh at the person who used to argue for science. I feel so bad for that person, you know?
Oh my
You
God, that
know?
was you. Huh?
That was me. That was me.
Well, see, we can all wake up, and that's the bottom line here is that we all, most of us, were something else before we're who we are now, with
Yeah.
a whole foreign set of beliefs.
Yeah. You're never too late to wake up. Never too late. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've been on here so for long forever. but I could talk with you all day long. Just so you know, I could.
Well, I hope you have me back on your show
I would love to
because
have you back on
it
the
is,
show.
I want to be a psychonaut. Great, great title. Psychonaut Joan of Angels is now joining the show.
Yay! Awesome. You're going to be the favorite guest. I can already tell. So, one more time, I want you to plug your event you're doing. The 3-day event starts when?
Oh, the 3-day event starts the sorry.
Portal to Ascension starts.
The Portal to Ascension, which you will find on portaltoascension.org. You can register for there. It's a free 3-day conference, April 14th, April 15th, 16th, and 17th. And then on April 18th, I am doing my own event, a post-conference workshop on uncovering and revealing your superpowers. And you can find that on my website at joanofangels.com, that workshop. That's going to be a great workshop, guys. I just want you to know something, because I've already gotten you ready for it. Really, you're going to learn how to trust your gut every single time. So those are, and right after that, I haven't announced it yet, but I'll be doing a 6-week group on finding your soul purpose. And when I say group, that's a 90-minute event where I might talk for the first period of time. Well, no, we'll drop in, we'll check in with everyone. Then I talk for 30 minutes, and then we do more group processes where you learn and you interact with each other and develop your soul mission statement, life purpose, with action steps to implement.
Nice. That's awesome.
Right?
Getting them going. Do you have a whip? You're like, what do you want to do with your life? That's what you're doing. This is it. Who are
Don't get
you?
carried away.
Who are you when you're totally alone? That's who you should be.
Right? Right,
That's
right, right.
it,
Well, last
right?
week my friend had me roaring at the moon. We were definitely, howling at the moon. It was a
I,
full moon and we were out there howling. She
were you
got on
naked? Were you
video.
naked, Joan? Were you naked and howling, or is it just howling?
God, I have neighbors. I'm sorry. I was fully clothed. Could have even been a winter night when I would have had like double and triple layers on me.
It's awesome howling at the moon. It's great. You're one with the moon. The hollow
So,
moon, howling at the hollow moon. Don't get me started.
okay, so I'm going to pull a card for everyone.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, and the card that I pulled comes from my deck, Angel of Pure Love, and Time for Healing and Self-Care. So this is for everyone out there. It's time to nurture yourself. So what? So you can nurture others. And so it's interesting. We've had quite a conversation about, kind of nurturing others through waking up.
Yeah.
Like that.
Isn't it something that when you're on an airplane, they tell you put the mask on yourself before you put the mask on the child, the oxygen mask I'm talking about, right? You have to save yourself, And that was a very hard lesson for me, is to not feel guilty about just laying around and doing nothing in bed all day. Like that was I'm not joking. Like that's not my personality. And if I start to be in bed for more than a few hours, like if it's 3 o'clock, I'm still in bed, like I'll have terrible guilt feelings about it, even though I was up till 5 in the morning the night before. You know what I mean? But it's just weird. It's like it's this block. So it's so great that you're teaching that. That's awesome.
Well, that's 10 hours of sleep. Just saying.
I'm a musician. I need at least 12. Stop it. Okay. You
Do
know how
you
hard my life
really?
is? No, I'm joking. I really sleep about 6 or 7 hours.
That's all I could sleep. It usually
Yeah.
ranges from 5 to 7.
I
I had 8 hours of sleep about 4 months ago because I now have this registers my sleep. I could not believe it. It was like a signature moment that I actually had 8 hours of sleep. I can't even remember when I might have had that in the past.
Well, you know what you need? You need to be using my sleep programs over on Phi Tribe. It's a chance for me to plug my stuff now. So,
Oh, tell me about
yeah.
them. I don't even
So,
know about them.
yes. So, Phi Tribe is my other channel. I used to have Monatomic, and I'm putting my sleep music back up there. Now, when I had Monatomic, even though I had these viral hits, the songs that got the most amount of views for all of my sleep stuff millions upon millions upon millions of people were going to sleep to my music every night. It was crazy. There was literally 20,000 comments in the comment section. And it was a lot of, the first one I put up was the root chakra healing. It's a root chakra phi balancing. So basically you go to sleep to this music, and the whole time you're asleep, it's balancing your chakras. And I have one for each of the 7 main chakras. And but what was astounding is the people would listen, and then they would pour their hearts out into the comments, right? Which is already like, holy cow, this person is going through it. And then there would be 100 responses from strangers just saying, I love you. You're going to get through this, blah, blah, blah. Just the support and the
Wow.
love
Everything
every night. I'm talking every night there was 100 comments, and every night there would be someone saying, this is the most loving comment section on all of YouTube. This is it. So anyway, I've had those videos got taken down 4 months ago when the channel got hacked. And yesterday I put up the first one, and each day I'm going to put up the next chakra. And so use that. You're going to sleep like a baby for 8 hours, and pure binaural beat theta waves, perfect phi tuning, and you're going to feel amazing in the morning. And your root is going to be like, hello world, I'm ready to meet the heart today and hang out with the heart. Me and the heart are best friends today.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. So yes, use that to get some sleep if you need 8 hours.
All right, send me a link.
I'll send you a
I
link. You
think
got
I've
it.
used those. I think I used some of those before.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
all-night ones. Yes, I have.
All-nighter ones. But yeah. So
Good.
everyone needs to work on themselves. That's their card. Yeah, guys, that's their orders from the divine universe.
That's right. Self-care, self-love,
Self-care. Self-care, and don't feel guilty about it. You just love you and rest. Everything else is going to work out.
and listen to Ford's music to stay asleep.
The irony that I'm so loved for making music that puts people to sleep, right? If that's not the cosmic joke, I don't know what is. But okay, it's all right. I'm grateful for
That is pretty funny. That is pretty
that.
funny.
That is
But then it
hysterical.
wakes them up through the sleep. Wait a minute. There's a lot of things. We'll break it down another time.
Yeah, another time.
The existential journey
Oh
through the
yes.
chakras.
Thank you very much for coming on here and being my very first guest. I cannot thank you enough for all of your help with everything. I really appreciate it. You're like family to me. So thank you.
This
And I
was
can't
so
wait for you to come on
delightful.
again.
I will
Awesome.
be back. This was delightful. This was great.
Yay!
You're great. You asked insightful questions,
Well, good.
and you have quite quite out of the ordinary as a guest, as a host.
Well, good.
and
Awesome.
and you think outside the box, and it makes it so fun.
Well,
Okay.
good. Is there anything we missed? Anything else I need to?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay. I love you. Thank you so much for coming on here. You have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. Have a great experience, and I'll see you on Portal to Ascension. Bye.
Cool. Bye.
See you later. Bye.